jio.tv.in, and there is translation also available for up to 7 languages. So a big welcome again to all of our guests across all of our platforms, whether it's webcast, YouTube, or Zoom. And I just wanted to introduce Diwali, not that it needs much of an introduction, but I feel for so many of us, it's such a joyous occasion. It's clearly the biggest festival in India by far. And it might have something to do with the fact that it's not just one day of celebration, but 5 days of celebration. And we tend to decorate ourselves and our homes in such a glamorous way, using diyas with lovely rangolis, patterns that are painted everywhere across our homes as well. And there is a lot of care and attention that goes into the preparation for Diwali. I know in my childhood and in many years, I was often drawn to the lovely mithai, or the sweets that are prepared in Diwali, as well as the fireworks. So there's so much to celebrate on Diwali. And often in this celebration, we can sometimes lose sight of the real significance of Diwali, I feel. And this program today, or this event today, is really for us to explore some of the deeper spiritual significances of Diwali. And for me, I feel it serves 2 purposes. One is the opportunity to spark that inner light of truth and transformation in ourselves in a way that allows us to really let go of what no longer serves us and to really start again. And the second is to really bring and share that light of love, of compassion, of kindness to everyone around us. And I think all of you would agree that what the world is calling upon us to really share is exactly this. So I'm hoping today's event will go some way towards creating that feeling of togetherness that we can sometimes experience, or actually we can all the time experience in Diwali. And whilst we may be socially distanced afar, we have certainly got the best seats in the house to enjoy this experience of Diwali. So I just wanted to take a few moments now just to introduce today's theme, which is seeing the light through the dark. And I think all of us would agree that this is definitely very, very relevant for our times today. And across every part of the globe, I think we can certainly relate to this particular theme. And the format for today really, and the way we're going to be exploring this theme, is with our guests. So we've got 2 special guests who have joined us, and we're going to have 3 conversations on 3 specific qualities that we normally associate with Diwali. One is generosity, the other is prosperity, and the third is spirit. In short, GPS. So I think we all know what a GPS is. And when we really connect with our own internal GPS, then we can allow our inner light to really shine through. So let me just take this moment now to welcome and introduce our special guest speakers. So we have Sister Jayanti from the Brahma Kumaris. And I think for many of you, Sister Jayanti will not require an introduction, but for anyone who hasn't heard of Sister Jayanti, she is officially the European Director of the Brahma Kumaris. She's been a meditator for well over 50 years. She has dedicated her life to serving her brothers and sisters all over the world. And she has served tirelessly. She travels the world, dealing with politicians, world bodies, individuals, organizations, and she is constantly on the move. So it's really lovely to have her here today. I also feel that she's an inspiration, an example, and a spiritual support to so many of us. So welcome, Sister Jayanti. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And our second guest today is Kiran Money. And Kiran is a close friend of the Brahma Kumaris. He's known us for a number of years now. He plays the role of the managing director at Google across Asia Pacific. And Google, as we know, is one of the most recognized brands across the planet. And whilst he carries a lot of responsibility in his role at Google, having met him briefly for, you know, a short period a couple of days ago, he doesn't strike me as the sort of individual that carries the weight of that responsibility on his shoulders. And it was so clear just to see his down-to-earth, gentle, easy nature come through. And yeah, and I just wanted to welcome Kiran to today's program. Thank you for joining us, Kiran.
Om Shanti, Ashbhai, Jayanti Ban, and all of the people on the call. Look forward to today. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. So one thing I'd like to add just before we commence today really is that it wouldn't be Diwali without the opportunity to light a candle. And you will see 3 behind me, but hopefully if you've got access to a candle in some way and you can light it safely, then please do join us for a candle lighting moment to mark and celebrate the auspicious Diwali moment in about 1 hour's time. So when we get closer to that point, I will certainly remind you all. But I think now it's probably time for us to really open the event and explore this first topic of generosity and what generosity really means to us. And with that, we would like to show you a short video of some individuals from around the world that are sharing their own stories on this topic of generosity. So here are the videos.
Om Shanti. La generosidad es una de las virtudes más hermosas del ser humano y a veces surge de forma espontánea. Estoy recordando una experiencia personal. Hace 15 años tuve un accidente de tráfico. Otro coche golpeó mi coche por detrás y me dañó el cuello fuertemente. Y me quedé inmóvil, semiconsciente. Y había otra persona que venía en un coche detrás, se paró y se puso a mi lado y me hablaba dulcemente. No te muevas, tranquila, todo va a salir bien. Estuvo esperando todo el tiempo, bastante tiempo, llamó a la policía, llamó a una ambulancia y estuvo esperando ahí pacientemente hasta que vino la ambulancia y cuando vino la ambulancia se marchó. Nunca pude darle las gracias porque no sabía su teléfono, no sabía su nombre, pero fue un gesto de mucha generosidad y recuerdo realmente muy vivamente cómo esta persona de forma espontánea tuvo ese gesto conmigo.
हाय, मैं हूं मनन गर्ग और मेरा अनुभव जनरसिटी के बारे में है। एक बार की बात है, हमारे यहाँ दिल्ली में मेला लगा था और मैं वहाँ पर हेल्प कर रहा था। वैसे तो मैं बहुत छोटा था, लेकिन मैंने वहाँ पर अपने कुछ दोस्त बना लिए थे जो मेरे से उम्र में बड़े थे। वहाँ पर एक पानी पूरी का स्टॉल भी था। जब मैं वहाँ पर पानी पूरी खाने के लिए गया तो वहाँ पर पानी पूरी बेचने वाले भैया बहुत सैड लग रहे थे। तो मैंने उनसे पूछा, भैया क्या हुआ? तब भैया ने बोला, बेटा सुबह से एक भी पानी पूरी नहीं बिकी है। तब मैंने सोचा कि ऐसा क्या किया जाए जिससे पानी पूरी वाले भैया खुश हो सकें। तब मैं अपने दोस्तों के पास गया और बोला, चलो हम सब पानी पूरी खरीदते हैं। तब मेरे सभी दोस्तों ने बोला, नहीं हमारे पास टाइम नहीं है, हम बहुत बिजी हैं। वैसे मेरे साथ मेरी दादी माँ भी थी। मैंने उन्हें सारी कहानी बताई तो उन्होंने मुझे बड़े प्यार से कुछ पैसे दे दिए। उन पैसों से मैंने पानी पूरी खरीदी। इसके बाद गरीब बच्चे भी खुश और पानी पूरी बेचने वाले अंकल भी खुश, और मेरे चेहरे पे जो खुशी आई वो मैं शब्दों में एक्सप्रेस नहीं कर सकता। So on this Diwali, be generous, be kind and feel inner happiness. Happy Diwali to all.
Wonderful. So I just wanted to acknowledge Maria in Spain and Manan in India for putting together those lovely clips and just highlighting their own stories of where this quality is. And I think we've all got many stories of generosity within us as well. And a couple of things that really came up for me in those stories was that generosity really embodies a number of qualities, and selflessness being one of them, kindness being another one, trust, big-heartedness, optimism, and enthusiasm. So there are so many qualities that we can associate with generosity, and I feel it'd be really wonderful for us to hear our speakers' own stories of generosity today, and just the qualities that they embody as well. I also think it'd be helpful just to get, or just to explore more about how we can be generous in these times today, and what do we need to pay attention to be generous. So I'd like to invite Sister Jayanti just to open this conversation on this topic. Thank you.
Om Shanti, Namaste, and very happy Diwali and a very happy New Year to everyone around who's with us now. I asked Daddy Janki, and I'm sorry if I keep referring to Daddy Janki, but she's been my mentor through the whole of my life since I was 8 years old. And so there are moments that are absolutely rich beacons of light in my mind in terms of the things I've learned through Daddy. And so at one point I'd asked Daddy, how can one develop generosity? And Daddy has thought about absolutely all aspects of spiritual life in such a deep way that she would have answers that would emerge as soon as you asked her any question. And at this point, she said to me, first you need to have a clean heart, a pure heart, a big heart, and then you can be generous. And it was something, of course, that she demonstrated in her life continually. And then in terms of what I can do to follow in those steps, can I first of all clean my heart so that I don't have any hidden agendas? So there's nothing of personal motivation that's there that's prompting me to do something. And so that first step of cleaning out my heart. And the second step, being able to expand my limits and develop a big heart. And my experience of that is that when I connect with the one above, then the power of God's love is such that the heart definitely grows bigger and bigger and bigger. And so one is able to take that unlimited love and use it for one's own spiritual journey and development. But of course, whatever is going on spiritually inside is then reflected in whatever it is we do outside also. And so that big heart then means I can be generous. And generous in terms of what? There's so much that most of us have. We have time, we have money, we have gifts, we have many things. And at Diwali, at the time of giving, we know that truly that adage that goes something like, the more you give, the more you receive. And there's greater happiness in giving than in receiving. And we proved that that is absolutely so. But money is, of course, one thing. And yes, the world moves on that. But time is more precious than money, I think. And so when anybody would come to Daddy, and it didn't matter whether it was somebody young or old, somebody very mature or very innocent, Daddy would be willing to give her time. And she gave her time generously. And so maybe the appointment would be for 15 minutes, and Daddy would take her time. And she would say, I'm not going to look at the clock. She called a watch the hattakadi, the shackles that bind you down. And so she never wore a watch, but she had an inner clock. But she would just say, don't call me. I don't want to hear you say there's only 5 minutes left, there's only 7 minutes left. I have to give whatever is the need. I have to respond to the need. I don't have to look at the clock. And she became the master of time. It was incredible how we saw her do this. But she would make sure that she would give whatever was the time that was necessary. And so her generosity, whether it was in terms of her time for herself, for her meals, or whatever else, but there was that spirit of giving. And so, yes, I've seen generosity in a very beautiful way firsthand. And I know that this must be the experience of Kiran Bhai also.
Thank you so much, Jayanti Ben. You know, I was listening to Ash Bhai speak about and explaining the significance of Diwali. It just reminds me how, over a period of time, the whole occasion of Diwali, not just being of 5 days, it's actually become a global celebration of no matter which culture you belong to, no matter which continent you belong to. It's amazing to see this time. It was really interesting to see the Prime Minister of Australia wish the entire population for on the occasion of Diwali. State heads now come out and wish people on Diwali. It's become a symbol of love, light, and most importantly, prosperity and much more hope in people's minds. And that is especially true during these times where the last 1 year is probably nothing like any of us would have ever imagined or will probably experience in the rest of our lives. But also within those moments, there is that moment of light which I constantly remind myself. For example, I'm so grateful that if this occasion had happened, if something like this pandemic had happened perhaps even 10 years ago, we probably would not have the power of communication, which has kept us closer than ever before. 10 years ago, the world, I mean, even decades ago, the world has suffered pandemics, probably not as severe as this, but the lack of communication and perhaps misinformation has caused the threat and the fear of the pandemic to spread faster. So in a lot of ways, I see that love, light, happiness today flows through the mode of technology. So I want to take a moment to just express gratitude that we are able to make even occasions like this possible, that people sitting at time zones which are at 6 a.m. in New York or California to as late as 10 p.m. are able to participate over a single call, share, and even share our moments of joy, moments of truth, moments of happiness that we all experience. I think listening to Jayanti Ben, my own experience on generosity, a moment that comes readily to my mind was again one with Adi Janki. And Jayanti Ben was generous enough to arrange for me. I have not had the privilege of being with her for a long time, but I remember I got 15 minutes with Dadi Janki about a year ago, and I was in London. And I will never forget those 15 minutes, simply because I was with a human being who could actually make me feel that I was the center of the universe and the center of her attention for that entire 15 minutes. And from there, I think the biggest learning that I walked away is the greatest gift of generosity that we can give each other is one of time. And that is even more relevant in times like today, where in the work environment, I've seen colleagues of mine who are living in large cities, away from families, there for work purposes. But the last 7 or 8 months have been especially difficult for them because even in cities like London and New York, it's one thing when there is a lot of crowd and people around them and there's a lot of moments of interaction. And then suddenly you are stuck in a small apartment with no one to talk to, no one to interact with. And after a certain point of time, it takes a toll on you. And it is in those moments that when you connect with them, even if over a digital medium, and when you are able to give a human being that undivided attention of time, you can see how much they value it. It also struck me in the stories with Sister Maria, Renal, and even Jayanti Ben's story. What we remember as generosity is not the dresses that we wore or the color of the occasion or the pani puris that we eat, but it's the people. And it's something which I've learned, that undivided attention from people is the best memory and the best gift of generosity that we can give on this occasion of Diwali.
It's absolutely true, because this is a time when people are missing families, or if I am lucky enough to be with my family, maybe it's just with the nuclear family and I'm not able to connect with my grandparents, for example. And so I think maybe that bond between grandchildren and grandparents is such a beautiful, loving, unconditional one, that maybe they're the ones who are missing each other the most. But what we can do is, and yes, my gratitude to technology, that we can bring generations together and allow that happiness to be shared, even though it isn't a physical connection, but it's a spiritual connection. And I think that the love that we share through our eyes, the generosity of spirit comes through in that way also. I'm also very, very aware that if I'm generous with others around me, then abundance comes my way. Sometimes I'm asked the question, which comes first? Is it that I have a lot and so I can generously give it? Or is it that there's generosity first and then abundance? And my own experience again has been that with Dadi, of course, but that Dadi always, even when she had only this much, would want to share and give. She wouldn't think about herself, but she would think about the need of the other, and she would be willing to give. And so that generosity of spirit and that large heart is something that brought abundance, and she was then able to do more and more and more for others. And so I know that this Diwali, very different circumstances, and you illustrated it in very graphic ways. But this Diwali, what more can I do to be generous? I heard a lovely story of somebody thinking that people needed food. And what she did was she could cook 10 extra chapatis a day very easily. But what she did was she phoned a few of her friends and asked them to do the same. And so each one of them cooking 10 extra chapatis, which is not a big deal. So all of them cooked 10 extra chapatis, and they were able to collect 100 chapatis, and as word spread, more and more, and give them to a food bank, and they were distributed to those in need. And so there are so many different things that we can do if the spirit is willing and if the soul is aware. And so I think this Diwali, we've been drawn more into the spiritual consciousness of what is Diwali than ever before. I think so often we've been caught up in the materialism of Diwali, the secular side, which is beautiful and joyful and it's great. But this time, somehow, we've not been able to do those external things, but definitely we've been moved into a higher consciousness, I think, through circumstance, through COVID, the silver lining of the cloud. And so now we're more ready to do things from our heart rather than things externally. I know that you were sharing with me a story about your move to Singapore and the time you were able to spend with your family. Would you like to share something of that?
Sure, Jayanti Ben. I'm sorry I was on mute as you were speaking. As you were, one of the things that strikes me is we spoke about how technology has enabled generations now to come together. And, a great thing about the occasion of Diwali is how it makes us look at the positive side of life. Yes, this year has been a tough one, but I do feel that in a lot of ways, the world is using this occasion now actually as a way to basically signal maybe the darkness has ended, both symbolically and realistically, and there's more light to come. A fact is, you so beautifully explained the love that transcends generations, the one where grandparents used to meet up with grandkids. And in our case, that's a very real one because our annual trips to India were something that we used to look forward to because our children had a great opportunity to interact with our parents. And those moments were ones to treasure with. But again, I've always found that the human spirit has a way to find get back to life and get back to positivity. It's amazing how in the last 1 year, our parents have learned how to use technology, have almost become technology natives, and much more than just the interactions with their grandchildren. In a lot of ways, I do believe, and I'm very positive about it, that the learnings that came out of these moments of darkness is going to propel humanity into much greater deeds and much greater things to do in the years to come. So even when things are down, and even when it feels like there is darkness, there's always light coming at the end of it, provided we allow ourselves the time and the space to do it. And a very good occasion, as you stated to us, happened a few days ago, where we recently shifted to Singapore. And the family, because of COVID and the times now, we had to go through a 14-day lockdown, or a stay home, as the Singapore government calls it. A lot of our friends were preparing us for the worst, because 2 kids, the 2 of us, all locked together in a single hotel room with no escape. And there were stories that people were sharing that it's going to be intense. The food quality is not going to be good. So they were preparing us for the worst. But I think it was just a mental shift that we told ourselves that in a lot of ways, we are grateful that in moments like these, we are still able to have an experience of traveling continents, visiting new countries. So me and my wife just decided to take this moment to actually share that we will be generous with the time that we have with each other. And let's just use this as a retreat. So the generosity actually transcended within family members in a way that we spent time with each other. We had, instead of meditating 1 time a day, now we had an opportunity to do it twice a day. The family exercised together. We just decided to take the opportunity to actually say we could order food in. So we decided to actually experience the Singapore menu over the 14 days. So again, those 14 days, now when I look back, I actually look back at as some of the most beautiful moments that we have spent together as a family. So again, I also, as you have already so eloquently explained, it's a personal experience. The generosity is a state of mind, and one that gets hugely influenced when you give it undivided time and attention, whether it is to yourself, whether it is with your family, or whether it is with your extended family in and around the world.
Thank you. Perhaps we can just go for a few moments on an inner journey of reflection and look at this subject from a very personal perspective. Sitting quietly, going within, I light the light of the soul so that I can see myself. And in this illumination, I see moments when the heart has been open and generous. What can I do to keep those moments not separated by a distance of time, but to come together so that it becomes a continuum? I know that when I go within and I connect with the one above, I'm able to see myself very clearly. And the power of that pure love is able to clean the soul and heal the soul, so that I have a clean heart. And as I fill myself with this love, it becomes a big heart. And I can become an instrument to allow the love from above to reach me. And that pure, inclusive love is able to flow out and reach others. The heart is open and the soul is generous, and the love continues to flow. And the light of the valley reaches out, opening other hearts, connecting us all, and reminding us of the one family we are all part of. I hold this awareness and come back to the things here and now that I carry. This big and generous heart, and keep it that way. Om Shanti. Thank you.
Shanti, thank you so much for that wonderful meditation. And it was just really lovely to hear you both talk so big-heartedly, actually, in terms of sharing your experiences. There's a couple of things that really stood out for me in your conversation. One was centered around your meditation, Jayanti Ben, which was clean heart, pure heart, big heart. And Dadi used to hammer that home for so many years. And it almost became, I think it's such a lovely process for us to recognize that this connection between heart and generosity. And I feel on the other side, what you were talking about, Kiran Bhai, was related to time. And, you know, I know in speaking to friends of mine who were working from home recently, who happen to be with their children, yes, they've got the time and space with their children, but because they're so occupied with work, they're not there mentally when they're with their children. So to be able to give somebody your time wholeheartedly is such a big act of generosity, because they will feel as though they have received the most attention, even if it's a short space of time. So I really, really appreciate you sharing that. I feel I could probably do a whole interview on this topic of generosity with both of you, but I feel that it's really time for us to explore our second quality of prosperity. And again, I feel this is probably less a quality, more a state of mind. And with that, really, we would like to probably show you a short video again with a couple of individuals that have shared their stories on this topic of prosperity. Here are the videos.
Sitting on a beach in Malaysia about 30 years ago, I thought I had it made. I felt very prosperous. I had a brilliant job, wonderful colleagues, great lifestyle, living in Singapore, weekends in Malaysia, scuba diving. I was happy, I thought. Up the beach that day while we were picnicking, there were two little boys. They weren't interested in us at all. Sticks in hand and a plastic bottle. They played for about an hour, laughing, showing each other things, enjoying. Simple pleasures. And it made me realize that that was what was missing from my life. Pure, simple pleasure in the moment. That was real prosperity.
Prosperità e abbondanza, uno stato di perenne splendore e ispirazione. È la virtù che dona la calma, è l'amore eterno che batte dentro. Mi richiama e quando mi permetto salire su di essa, volo, sparisco, raccolgo il frutto dei frutti di chi sono veramente io. Questa è la prosperità per me, il volo dell'anima che lo yoga mi dona.
Wonderful. I feel like we need to acknowledge those two excellent videos and sharings. And that was by Ruth here in the UK in Manchester and Carlos in Italy. So thank you both for really sharing your expressions on this topic of prosperity. I recognize that prosperity is a term that we don't really use much these days. And we tend to hear it often, but in the context of Diwali, I can see that it's connected to goddess Lakshmi, particularly relating to wealth and attracting wealth into my life. So I know there are many practices we do when it comes to preparation for Diwali, particularly to create the right energies or attract the right energies into our homes. And that may start with cleaning our homes, you know, from every little nook and corner, to making sure that there aren't any leaking taps, to having the right symbols and the right paintings and the right rangolis, just so that the energy flows and we can attract prosperity or wealth in this way. So I know historically we paid a lot of attention to these outer practices, but I also feel that in today's world we recognize that there isn't this connection between wealth and happiness. Just because you've got wealth doesn't necessarily mean you're happy. So what is this state of inner prosperity that we need to cultivate inside of ourselves? And actually, what is this this connection between wealth and happiness? And Kiran Bhai, I'd really like you to open this conversation and just to share your own experiences on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashbhai. I mean, in many ways, you already summarized it, isn't it? You know, two aspects of prosperity come immediately to mind for me. I think one of the beautiful way in which the sisters explained it, prosperity is a state of mind. You know, you can have all the wealth around you, but it's in the little joys that you see sometimes your most prosperous moments. So again, I think moments like what we have experienced in the past few months have probably taught us most. There was a very touching story, probably an anecdote where I recently read, where it was the story of the gentleman who came down with COVID-19, went to a hospital, and at the end he recovered. And when he came out, the hospital stuck him a multi-$1,000 bill for the ventilator support that he came in. And, you know, the story goes that he immediately came down in tears of joy. And when the hospital was asking, why is he crying? Is it because of the size of the bill for the ventilator that was supporting? His answer was, it is not the cost of the air that he paid for when it mattered most, but it was the air that he breathed freely that God offered him for all his life that he never cared for or never thanked for enough. So in many a times, we have prosperity all around us. It just takes us a moment to pause, acknowledge, and experience it. So again, I think in many ways, while these moments have been dark, it has also shown us what true prosperity is. And true prosperity lies in the little things around us. The second thing, which, you know, something which I learned a long time ago from a mentor at work, was in the context of what you said, which is Diwali being a sign of Goddess Lakshmi or money. And in the corporate environment that I work in, again, we see multiple occasions where money is an important source of making things happen. And, you know, money in the hands of wrong people or with wrong ideas can be a tremendous wastage. So again, the sheer concept of Diwali comes so much to life, even in what many of us spend hours and hours of our lives in pursuit of. It really boils down to saying, you know, how we use money has to have purpose and it has to have possibilities. And again, that was a great learning that I learned at a very early stage, that whatever you do, purpose means you plug the holes because you're single-minded in your dedication to make a particular event or a particular ambition happen. Purpose brings you to an ability to focus your time, focus your attention, and make sure, as you rightly said, there is no dirt lying around or there are no leaking taps all around. And that brings in a tremendous amount of prosperity, both not in terms of money, but even in terms of inner joy. In these moments, having purpose is a great channelization of how to bring prosperity to life. But at the same time, sometimes when we become over-purposeful, it also blinds us. And that's where moments like this also shake us up to give us the chance to explore possibilities, which allows us to look around. And a very good example was recently when I read about how the medical industry has collaborated during this time. It is not an industry that is known to collaborate or do something well together. But again, we recently had a conversation with the CEO of Merck, and he spoke so well about how during these times when the world was caught unawares on how to deal with a pandemic, hospitals, large medical establishments have had to work together to explore possibilities, because production of an antidote to this pandemic is not just enough. You have to find ways to cost effectively distribute it to almost every single human being on this planet. How do you do it to the deepest parts of Africa, where a multi-dose of my vaccine won't work? You need to have a single-dose vaccine. Even that is very difficult to implement. So it's amazing to see how the medical industry sees possibilities in collaboration for the first time, rather than actually making this into a sheer money-making effort or a race to beat each other. So again, it's amazing how this moment of Diwali brings us the multiple aspects of prosperity to life. It isn't what is overt, but it is about finding joys in small things. And also, it's also about prosperity. It's also about making serious things work through possibilities and through purpose.
What I'd like to talk about is prosperity in a little bit of a different way. And it's very much connected with Diwali and Sri Lakshmi. And they say that she's the goddess of wealth. And yes, I'm sure she is. But if you look at the name Lakshmi, it actually is connected with the word Lakshan, virtues, qualities. And so the wealth that Sri Lakshmi offers us is actually the wealth of all virtues. And if you think about a person's character, it depends on the virtues that that individual has. And so sometimes it's said that the greatest wealth is the person's character. And so I'm seeing that prosperity in terms of the development of virtues within the individual is a very important factor here. And so, yes, the cleanliness and the invocation of Lakshmi, making sure that it's the right energy around, is absolutely what we need to do for ourselves. And I'm interested to see how, whether it's generosity or whether it's prosperity, this aspect of cleaning the heart, cleaning the soul keeps coming in. And of course, it makes sense that it's only when you have pure intentions, good intentions, the right purpose that you spoke about, that when we have that sort of cleanliness, then the right things can happen. And you can have everything, all resources, but if you don't have the right intentions, then nothing's going to work out. And so for each one of us individually, the prosperity of virtues, the wealth of virtues is possible. And we can develop all of these through the cleansing of the spirit. And yes, then I know that those lakshana, those qualities are going to be invoked and come into my own life. And another aspect of prosperity that I witnessed with one of the other daddies now, Daddy Prakashmani. And Daddy Prakashmani had, her name means light, the jewel of light. And so what we used to see was her amazing smile. And the smile was one that gave immediately a sense of well-being to another. How much does a smile cost? It costs nothing. And yet a smile can be uplifting, a smile can be encouraging, a smile can be something that gives so much strength to another to help them move forward in their lives. A smile can change the spirit of another from being down somewhere in their boots to up above, able to fly high. And so I think prosperity is something to do with what's going on inside. And when I feel well and content, then that contentment and that cheerfulness and radiance of that smile is able to reach out and serve others also. So I know that prosperity has a big spectrum, but these have been two of the things that I've been thinking about. Anything else you'd like to share, Kiran Bhai?
Jayanti, you brought out such an interesting aspect of prosperity, which is the aspect of inner cleanliness. And it also reminds me, I know Dadi and in the Brahma Kumaris, we speak about the advent of Satyug and that it's around the corner, that there is a collective belief that the spirit of humankind is ready for a renaissance of sorts, that in some way the world needed probably a moment to slow down and reflect internally, to do the proverbial inner cleanliness, but also to bring out those qualities which are already residing within us. And I don't know how I would love to hear your thoughts on this too, but I definitely sense that in the world around, that something has changed in the last 5 to 6 months. The conversations around the table are no longer about making money for the sake of making money, or doing things for the sake of the stock market to look better. There is definitely a collective conversation or a consciousness within the corporate world that true prosperity lies when the human spirit is brought to life. And whether it is in the world of technology, whether it is in the world of medicine, it almost gives us a feeling that the human spirit is coming through to actually experience prosperity in its true sense, that it's not just money for the sake of money, but it's about what it can do to humanity. And how can we all bring out our most prosperous self in order to make life around us more joyful, more functional, more full in all possible ways. So very much relate to what you say.
Yes, absolutely true. Agree with the things that you've just shared, Kiran Bhai. And I'm thinking that it is a time for everyone to experience that prosperity, to allow that spirit which is latent within the self. Yesterday we had a conversation about essential divinity and how every tradition and even people of no faith feel how there is that goodness within every human being, and it's time to allow that goodness to flourish and emerge. And we've been seeing beautiful examples, but also to do that more and more within my own life. I know that there's other things lined up, so maybe I take a pause and hand over to Ash now. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, both of you, again, for a lovely conversation, again, sparking so much inside of me. And I just wanted to, again, pick on a few things that you've both mentioned before I can pass back to you, Jayanti Ben, to just take us through a short meditation. So a couple of things. One is this thread of cleanliness again, just emerging when it comes to invoking my own qualities that are latent or that could be latent, but invoking those qualities, and that is my greatest wealth, a person's character. So I really took that from what you were sharing. And I also feel that this connection between prosperity and purpose is a really interesting one as well, that you shared, Kiran, because, you know, I think you're absolutely right. In certainly in the conversations I've been having with peers and colleagues at workplaces, it is a different mindset now. And also individuals that are preferring a different outlook to life now. It feels like there are so many people that just want to be happy and want to live by their hearts now. And so I feel prosperity in terms of, in the context of wealth, is changing in people across the world, and people are happy to really prosper in the simple things and appreciate the simplicity of life and not get bogged down by chasing the money, as we have been for so many years. So I feel, just on that note, it'd be really lovely to be guided through a meditation, Jayanti Ben, if you can, for 3 minutes, and then we can move on to the next part of our program.
Going within and seeing the light that I am, I'm able to connect with the one above. And the power of love, the power of truth, the power of joy flows into the self. And as I feel this growing within my own inner world, I can truly feel the prosperity within growing, the treasure of love, the treasure of truth, and the treasure of joy is beyond any external treasure I may find. These are the unlimited treasures that each one has within ourselves. And these are the treasures that we receive in abundance from the source. And as I experience these treasures emerging within, there's a deep sense of gratitude for all that I receive and all that I have and all that I can share with all. Being aware of these treasures, I feel my life prospers and the spirit flourishes. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. And thank you once again for that lovely meditation. This next part of our program is a little video, or a short video, by Dadi Janki. Now, for those of you who haven't heard of Dadi Janki, she was the last administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris. She passed away in March this year, aged 104. And I would probably need at least half an hour to give you a full background on Dadi and her virtues and qualities, probably more. But I feel that for so many, she has not just touched hearts, but she has won hearts. And just in her presence, she has brought out something so different in so many individuals. And so I feel this video next, even for those of you who haven't seen her, I'm sure there will be something that you will connect with in this video. So let's have this video next. But before we start the video, I just wanted to mention also that the video is about 4 or 5 minutes long, and we'll have our candle lighting straight after that. So if you've got your candles ready, then we will begin our candle lighting straight after Dadi Janki's video. Thank you.
दीपावली की मुबारक हो, मुबारक हो, मुबारक हो। ये ऐसे भारत के जो त्योहार है ना, उसकी खुशी भारतवासी तो अभी मैंने देखा है, कोई विश्व के कोना नहीं छोड़ रहा है, सेवा करते आ रहे हैं। सच्ची खुशी किसको कहा जाता है? खुशी वो जो कभी भी कोई भी आवाज दुख करना कभी न निकले। ये मेरी भावना है। तो खुश रहो, आबाद रहो, न विसरो न याद करो। माना क्या, कभी भी जो भी बात है ना, हो गई ना, कुछ नहीं है। तो ये कैसे होगा, क्या होगा? प्लीज कभी ऐसा आवाज दिल से न निकले। हैप्पी दिवाली, सारी खुशी। माना ही क्या है, दीपक जगाओ, एक दो को देखो, दीवा जगाओ। अंधकार में दीपक चारों तरफ जगाते हैं, पर हैप्पीनेस तभी है। मैं कानों में सुनाऊं बात क्या? हाँ, स्वीटनेस होवे, मधुरवाणी, निम्रता, सत्यता, धीरता, मधुरता। मुस्कुराता हुआ दिवाली, सच्ची दिवाली ये है। मुबारक मुख से न कहना, पर जो कोई न उसके दिल से निकले तो सदा खुश कैसे रहती? बताओ न, बताऊं क्या? अरे मैं हूँ आत्मा, मेरा है परमात्मा। बात दो शब्दों में सदा ही होती है। मैं कौन, मेरा कौन? तो मैं हूँ आत्मा, यहाँ मेरा है परमात्मा। तो बुद्धि आत्मा समझ से लाइट हो जाती है। परमात्मा मेरा बाप है, पर वंडर तो ये है, परमात्मा मेरा माता भी है तो पिता भी है, शिक्षक भी है, सखा भी है, सतगुरु भी है। अभी ऐसी दिवाली मनाना सारे विश्व में कितनी अच्छी है। जितना मनाओ मनाओ, क्या माना, प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ से एक दो की जोत जगाओ। जोत जगाओ माना क्या, अंधकार मिटाओ। अंधकार में यही शब्द निकलता, मैं क्या करूं, कैसे करूं? नहीं नहीं नहीं, रोशनी, चलते फिरते, खाते पीते, एक दूसरे मिलते, हैप्पी 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 रहना, ये है ईश्वर की तरफ से दिल व जान से को प्रेम से ऐसी लिफ्ट मिलती है। जो उस लिफ्ट में बैठो, वो जैसे लिफ्ट गिफ्ट में मिली है। चलो सब पार। ओके Om Shanti. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti Dadi. You know, Dadi may no longer be with us physically, but her words and vibrations make us feel as though she is present with us. So I really hope that's uplifted or inspired you in some way. And I feel now is probably the right time to start our candle lighting moment. So if you've got your candles ready, then let us take this opportunity to pretty much hold in our awareness that as I light this candle, let me finish any darkness that no longer needs to exist. So let's hold that awareness. And I'd like to invite Sister Jayanti and Kiran Bhai also just to hold their candles up. And Jayanti Ben, if you could also share some thoughts, just a few words on reflection, that would also be very, very welcome. Thank you.
As we light the candle or the diya, we are aware of the soul shining. The soul shines, the light of peace, the light of love, the light of truth. All the ignited souls come together and create a rosary of lights. The deep mala that is remembered at Diwali. And light of peace, of love and truth radiates out into the world, and the darkness is chased away. And we move forward into the day, a world filled with peace, with love, with truth. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. So we've got to this part of the program where we only have one more virtue to explore. But before we went down that route, I just wanted to ask a question actually that we've received on YouTube. And Jayanti Ben, if you could maybe just expand on this, it would be really helpful. So when the energy within a home is divided, how do you create balance for the benefit of all?
My hope is that if we look for the best in each one, because not only is it that energies are divided, but sometimes our hearts are divided also. But if I can look for the speciality of each one within my family and the goodness that lies within each one, once our hearts can come together, then our energies can flow together also. So I hope that this Diwali will bring the reminder that there is light in every single individual. So let me look for those qualities that I can appreciate and value, and as such then have that respect and love so that our hearts can come together.
Thank you. And Om Shanti. So just to introduce our final conversation on this topic of spirit, or what I think is being spirited. We'd like to start by just showing you a couple more videos of individuals just sharing their own experiences of this topic on being spirited. So we'll have these videos now.
مساء الخير، معكم وداد من الكويت. تجربتي مع التأمل جدا جدا جميلة، لدرجة أنا يوميا لازم مخصصة وقت للتأمل، لأنه فرق معاي كثير بهذه المشاعر الثقيلة اللي كانت عندنا، اللي هي الغضب والقلق. هذا تقريبا اختفى 80% منه، بالإضافة إلى أن أكثر هدوء وسلام داخلي صار معانا. فردات فعلنا للمشاكل اللي بحياتنا، للضغوطات اليومية، للمسؤوليات، صرنا نتعامل معها بشكل هادي، مما أثر أن المشاكل قلت في حياتنا. بالإضافة أن كنت أعاني من صداع وألم بالرقبة، هذا أيضا اختفى تماما. وأيضا راح تلاحظون فرق بالذاكرة، شلون تنشطت بشكل يعني سحري صراحة. فأنصح الكل أن يمارس هذا التأمل.
Une expérience que j'ai envie de partager avec vous, où j'ai vécu, j'ai exprimé cette qualité d'être animée de l'intérieur, se passe dans le contexte professionnel. Depuis que j'ai commencé de travailler, j'ai vécu des situations complexes au niveau des relations humaines et managériales. En début d'année, sur plusieurs semaines, sur plusieurs mois, quand il s'agissait de me mettre en route sur des projets, je n'arrivais plus du tout. Je n'avais plus d'énergie, plus de motivation. Un matin, je me suis demandé à moi-même, si tout me lâchait, qu'est-ce qui, malgré tout, continue de me mettre en vie, de m'animer pour continuer le chemin? La réponse fut claire. Faire ce que je sais faire depuis que j'ai l'âge de 7 ans et ce que j'aime, c'est jouer de la musique. J'ai ressenti que c'était un moteur puissant pour moi sur lequel m'appuyer pour rebondir. C'est en jouant chaque matin que petit à petit l'énergie, l'entrain revenait pour me mettre en route.
Lovely. I just wanted to acknowledge Medad from Kuwait and Letitia from France for sharing those experiences with us. And I feel really important messages in both those experiences, because when we're talking about emerging our inner spirit again, it feels as though we do have to connect with ourselves. And both are meditators, and both have received the benefit and the guidance and the clarity just to be able to start that journey of rekindling their inner spirit. And I think when I think of this term spirit or spirited, I think of a number of different qualities, actually. I think of courage, I think of enthusiasm, I think of energy, I think of fearlessness. So there's some powerful qualities that are contained in that term of being spirited. And I guess the question really is, just to start your conversation, is what does it mean for you to be more spirited in all aspects of our lives or your lives? And what is it that we need to do on a personal level to emerge and rekindle our own inner spirit? And Sister Jayanti, I'd really welcome you to open this part of the conversation. Thank you.
When I think about the word spirited, it is, as you indicated, all those beautiful things that are connected. And what I feel is that when we have that time for silence and we're able to connect with the energy that lies within, and of course, then the energy that comes to us from above, then that gives us that enthusiasm and that courage to be able to do things that we would otherwise normally have never thought about. I'll share two stories. One is about Dadi Prakashmani. I've talked about her before. And at the age of 49, Brahma Baba, the founder, passed away, and he was 93 at that point, but somehow we thought he was immortal and he'd be with us forever. And of course, on the subtle level, yes, that legacy is very much with us and that connection is very much there. But on the other side, in terms of the external things, Dadiji and another sister with her, whom we called Didi Manmoini, both of them inherited the task of continuing with the work of the organization. And Dadiji in particular was the one who was out there in front. Didi was more the powerhouse behind, but Dadiji, the one in front, and she took the organization from being in India, where we had at that time around 400 centers, to the point when she left in 2007, we had centers in 120 countries, and we had, I think by then, about 8,000 centers. And so the thread that carried her through her life, of course, her love and her faith in God, but also her enthusiasm and her tremendous courage, and I would say her trust in others. And so her spirit was incredibly powerful. And one of the interesting things about our organization is that Brahma Baba always had women as the teachers and the leaders. And so 2 women leading an organization that caters for men and women, a spiritual organization, is still today unique in the world. I don't see that there's another organization like that. But the spirit within Dadi and the enthusiasm that she had to move things forward and the courage to step where no one else had stepped before, all of these things were quite remarkable. And I had the good fortune of being with her in many different situations and learning from her. But the power of the spirit was very, very visible in the form of love, but also in her courage. At one point, she told a gathering, "Is there anyone within this gathering?" And it was a gathering of 1,000 plus with very high level, high profile people there too. And she said to the gathering, "Is there anyone within the gathering who can say, I've never spoken a lie in my life?" And she said, "I can. I can honestly say this." And that was her courage, that was her spirit, that was her love for life and the power of truth within that soul. And Dadi Janki went through many, many severe illnesses in her lifetime. I saw her go through many of those. And age 59, she came to London and she didn't speak English. She understood a bit, but didn't actually speak it. And she came to a tiny little place in London, and her renunciation, her simplicity for the power of spirit. The video that you saw earlier must have been when she was around 102 years of age, maybe 103, around then. And you could see that just from those few minutes, that the courage of that soul and the power of that soul was incredible. And so I see that their time in silence, their time of journeying inside and the exploration of the laboratory of the mind, that gave them that capacity to be able to express things in the way that they did, and the ability to lift people up, to be able to allow others to show their light and their greatness and achieve their highest potential. All of these are the things I witnessed in a very beautiful way. And I know that Kiran Bhai, you wanted to bring in this idea of spirited. I'll be interested to hear from you.
Jayanti, thank you. You know, 2 thoughts came to my mind as I was hearing Ashbai and Dadi. One is the concept of spirit, and it is so beautifully portrayed in a 102-year-old lady, that she brings up the spirit of life even at that age. You can see the joy in that person, isn't it? And the other person whom I always I don't need to look beyond, is my 5-year-old daughter. There was the story that all of us are working in a COVID environment these days, and our computers are literally our office spaces. So a few months ago, when this whole episode started, we were all trying to get used to this new normal of trying to use our computer screens and use this also as a medium of getting work done. And I was in one of those calls where I had a few very important people that I was hosting, both from my company and from externally. And in walks my daughter. She had come back from school. The 5-year-old just flings the door open, jumps on, and she's on She sits on me and she is excitedly telling me about her entire day. And I'm trying to explain to her that I'm on a call with someone else. So she puts a hand out at the camera and she asks everybody, wait, I'm speaking to daddy. And, everyone had a hearty laugh. It actually made the conversation so much more easy because it was supposed to be a tough conversation. But the kid had the ability to make everyone smile. The mood, the entire conversation became different. And the whole course that happened after the next 1 hour was a beautifully different one that we could not have planned for, no matter how much time we took. I think people with spirit have that ability to bring out the best in us, not just the best in themselves. And they do that with levity, with smile, with just an attitude where everything sits very easily around them. And I think, Jayanti, as you spoke, that's the other thing that struck me through the conversation today. In order to enable the GPS that we spoke about today, one which is about generosity, prosperity, spirit, in some way there is an inner GPS that needs to light it up. And that comes from gratitude, a place of knowing that we have a lot and we have a lot to offer. It also comes from a place of purpose that we all, I think again with Dadi, that was the one quality that I have always noticed. Even within a levity, there's always that purpose, the purpose to see the world happy. It's amazing how even in the case of a child, I find the purpose to get up every day to learn, the curiosity that they bring in. I wish in a lot of ways, let our experiences grow us, not grip us. And as we work with people too, let's enable people to see that even when they make their mistakes, help them grow rather than help them grip. And I think that's the GPS that I walk away from today. Be grateful, be purposeful, and most importantly, keep that service mentality in mind. That seva is the best way for all of us. And you said that very beautifully, Jayantipan, at the beginning of this conversation. Prosperity actually comes from giving more. Whether it is your time, whether it is your others, the more you give, the more you get. So beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for initiating it.
I'm thinking more about the whole term spirit. And it's true that all of us have a soul. There's no question about it. In fact, we are souls rather than have a soul. We are souls. That's a reality. But somehow in the world today, we lose touch with the being that we are, and we get caught up in the externals. And so this Diwali, I really hope that the light of the soul has come back, is ignited, and that is spirit. When the light is ignited and the light begins to shine, then it's, as you said, benefit for the self, but also benefit for everybody else around us. So I think that just a few hints on how do I keep the light shining brightly? Just as you have your Deepak and you have to pour in the oil every single day, I need to do a little of the same. Let me have time for myself in silence. Let me have time for spiritual study so that I begin the day with something that's uplifting for me, something that's going to give me that sense of purpose and inner joy again and set my compass straight. So when I do that, just investing a little bit of time for the self each day, then I find that the whole day is going to be illuminated with that light. But again, at the end of the day, I need to just keep checking and seeing, what did I learn? Could I have done something differently? Not something better or whatever, but just something differently. And maybe that'll open up the heart and mind, and I'll be able to see things from a different perspective, and the spirit will shine even more brightly. And I think that if we were to do that for ourselves, then yes, our life of service would benefit many, many others. Sometimes we forget to give time to ourselves. And I hope that at this moment, Diwali has come as a very sweet reminder that we need to keep pouring in the oil so that the light shines brightly. And I wonder if you have a daily practice that you have in your life that ensures that you stay spirited and are able to do not just the work that you do, and so the responsibility of the family, but also to keep yourself shining continually.
Kiran Bhai, I think you're on mute still, so we just need to unmute you. Thank you.
Sorry. I was just closing out on Jayanti Ban's comments over there, the need to be generous to oneself. And was sharing a personal experience story, my own journey with the practice of meditation and spending quiet time began 11 years ago. And, in a previous occasion, I've mentioned this. It's been an immensely beneficial one, a journey which is ongoing. And as Jayanti very well said, there's nothing called right or wrong about it. It's just different. And in that difference, you allow yourself again back to possibilities. It's amazing what the human spirit or the human soul, the soul power that we all have and what we are all capable of. We just need to give ourselves the permission to do that. As sometimes it seems that we are all so lost in the external GPS that we haven't mapped our own inner GPS. The most powerful vehicle that we have to realize not only our dreams, but also the dreams around us is this human body, this mind that we all have, and the spirit with which we all walk in. And may this Diwali be an occasion we are able to light that inner light and give ourselves the biggest gift of time and undivided attention.
Beautiful, thank you. Perhaps we could just have a few minutes of silence to be able to experiment with these ideas again. What you've seen happening over the last little while is taking just a few thoughts and allowing our mind to dwell on these and to experience the depth of these. And this is Raj Yoga meditation, because many people sometimes think that meditation means making the mind blank. Well, that's almost impossible. But what we can do is channel our thoughts in a specific way. And while our thoughts are running around here and there, then fine, it's what I need to do. But if I can make time and let my thoughts lift me upwards, take me onto a different dimension, and if I can let my thoughts slow down so that between the spaces of the thoughts, as they grow larger, I'm able to have an experience, I begin to catch a glimpse of what the power of silence is about and what Raj Yoga meditation can do for me. So let's share a meditation together again. I'm aware of the value of this human vehicle that I have. But now I want to explore the being within. And the being that I am is spirit, beyond matter, beyond time, and yet I exist. No physical limits. I am spirit. And within I, the being of light, there is peace. As I go deeper and deeper within myself, I connect with peace, which is my natural state of being. And as I become peaceful, I can feel the presence of the divine. the being of light, the supreme light, the one who eliminates all darkness, the one who allows our light to shine. In the presence of the Supreme, my heart opens up and I feel gratitude for all that my parent has given. The Supreme Parent who gives me all treasures and is my strength and support forever. The being who showers me with all virtues so that I prosper and flourish in my life. The being who gives me insight and wisdom so that I can understand spirit and be spirited. As I experience the abundance of all the treasures from the divine, I ask, what return can I give for all that I have received? And the response comes, all I have to do is share. And as I share these treasures, more comes my way. And the spirit of Diwali carries us into the new year. And as we come together as one family, we co-create a better world for all. Om Shanti. Thank you.
Om Shanti, Jayanti Ben. Thank you to both you and Kiran Bhai for such an engaging and captivating conversation. And I've just found it so rich and immensely full of value. So thank you so much for sharing all of your memories. And in particular, in this last part, I have to say, there's so many things that touched me when you started talking about the dadis and some of the memories, because you could really see that they kind of expressed themselves not just in a spirited way, but they came from that real sense of purity. And I feel that really connects with your story as well, Kiran Bhai, where your daughter literally just jumped on your seat and took over. And there's a spirited approach, but I feel there's such a purity behind her approach that just wins people over. So I really appreciated just listening to that. I also feel something you've said that we can really be mindful of as we leave this program today, to really be in the service of others and what it means to be in the service for others and to help others when they make mistakes. And I feel more than ever right now in the world, what we need is to really raise people. And it's easy to point out mistakes. It's easy to be hard on people, but that's only channeling our own inner anger. But it takes a different spirit to really be able to raise somebody and see their positivity. So I just wanted to touch on those 2 points. Also, there was a question that just came in, and I think we've just got a few more minutes just to be able to get you to respond to this question. So how do we not be affected by the aggression of others? And Kiran, I'd like to ask you that to start with, and then Sister Jayanti, but how do you not be hit or be affected by the aggression of others?
It's a very relevant question in today's time when, at least in the world outside of, sometimes when we walk into forums, when I'm with my sisters, with the Brahma Kumaris, you get that feeling of love, compassion, which envelopes you, which sometimes can be surprising when you go outside and you find that missing. But in a lot of ways, I feel that people who come from aggression also come from a place of being disturbed, or it is their own inner fears that plays out in the form of an aggression with you. I think the aspect is, again, learning from my own personal experience. There were moments where I've dealt aggression with aggression, but it has never had a great outcome. It's almost like dealing fire with fire creates only more fire. And even if it is difficult, the only answer in that situation is one of compassion. One where you are able to put yourself in that other person's shoes. And even if you don't understand the situation in its entirety, at least give the person the benefit of the doubt that the aggression comes from a place of helplessness or from a place of misunderstanding, which that other person needs time to resolve.
Lovely. Thank you, Kiran Bhai. And Jayanti Ben, if you could just wrap up for us on that same question, that would be great.
I appreciated your response of compassion, Kiran Bhai. Very beautiful. And for me, a very practical thing that I do is to just create an aura, a canopy of protection from the one above, a canopy filled with light. It's a canopy that's not only protecting me, but is also reaching the other. And it definitely changes the atmosphere. And as you said, because we change our attitude, then of course the response is also a little bit different. And in this case, it's something that I've often experimented with, just allowing that canopy to surround us all so that then whoever's under that canopy is able to feel that light. And there's a dissipation of the negativity, and it works. And so I hope everyone carries this canopy with themselves so that the love of Diwali, the light of Diwali continues to protect you.
Lovely. Thank you again for all of your input and your value to both of you. And I really hope that the conversations today have sparked something for all of our viewers, and that you can really take something from this. And if you are celebrating a new year, and in the Indian calendar it is the new year today, then you could apply some of these things and start again. And I also wanted to just take this opportunity to thank a very, very good team behind the scenes. And these guys are real pros at making everything look so seamless. and through all the rehearsals, they have been tireless. And I just wanted to, from our hearts, just thank them for making this such a beautiful and wonderful event. And really, finally, on behalf of all of us here, I just wanted to thank all of you for joining this amazing event and simply making it special by your presence. So on that note, a very, very happy new year to those who are celebrating it, and may your light of compassion, kindness, and care shine really brightly. Om Shanti. Take care. Namaste.
Om Shanti. See you all. Bye.
आइए 1 मिनट मेडिटेट करें। बाहर की बातों से न्यारा होकर अपने मन को देखें।
मैं आनंद स्वरूप आत्मा हूं। आनंद के सागर परमात्मा की मैं संतान हूं।